Welcome back to another episode of Girls Know Nothing. I know a lot of people, if you are watching it on YouTube, are probably thinking, why are we not sat in our lovely cozy studio in London? But obviously with the weather, the train strikes, and I also have only just recovered from having the flu, which is why I'm sat in my really beige looking living room in comparison to the nice studio. But also, it's probably great for our next guest who doesn't have to travel miles and miles to be able to get to the studio. So our wonderful guest for this episode is Dani. And actually, I've seen a lot of posts about you, Dani, on LinkedIn and about your story. And as soon as I heard it, I was like to Jen, I need to speak to this woman. So for people that don't know you, feel free to give yourself a bit of an introduction.
Yes, I'm Dani. I'm from Newcastle. I'm 24. I do a boring admin job, but I also do a little bit of content creation, influencing, as you will. And I'm all about makeup, self-love, self-confidence, and of course, I've got alopecia as well. Just point out the obvious, which I know we're going to talk about today anyway. So,
yeah. So I said to you before we started this podcast that alopecia isn't something I was ever aware of until I was a fully grown adult, and I don't feel like it's something that's talked about enough. So what is alopecia, basically, for people that don't know?
Yeah, so alopecia is an autoimmune disease or condition, and it basically is where your white blood cells attack themselves, and it basically just doesn't let you grow hair. So I'm perfectly healthy. There's nothing physically wrong with us or anything like that. It's just that I don't grow hair, which is really strange. There isn't a lot of research and stuff into it, so that's probably why you didn't hear much about it. And also, it doesn't really affect people, so it probably doesn't get as much coverage or whatever it needs to, because at the end of the day, I'm alive and I'm healthy. So I can see why it doesn't get a lot of coverage or stuff like that. But there's obviously the mental side of things, which I think is more pressing, aside from physical or being healthy and whatnot. But yeah, I've had it pretty much all of my life since I was 1.5. That's when it all started. And it's progressively over the years got worse. I don't know, do you want us to go into my story, how it all started, and just so you can get to know that a little?
Yeah, feel free to tell us how your diagnosis happened and things like that.
Yeah, so it was 1.5. That's when my mum first noticed the little patch on the top of my head. It was about a 20 pence piece size patch. She also noticed prior to that my hairline was quite high at the back of her head. So she thought it was potentially my ponytail or something that was pulling on my hair. So she kind of just tried different styles, but then eventually she noticed that I had the patch on the top of my head. So we went to the doctors, and they were really dismissive, to be honest, of my mum. They weren't very nice or supportive. And they said, oh, well, it's baby alopecia, it'll go away, and then just left it at that. But over the years, of course, it just got worse and worse. And then eventually, I think I was around 2.5. That's when we went to the dermatologist at the hospital, and they diagnosed us with alopecia areata. So there's a few different types of alopecia as well. The ones that I've had 3 different types of alopecia. The first is alopecia areata, which is just the patches. Often that's how it starts, where you just get little patches everywhere. Mine started on the top of my head, and then I lost all of my hair eventually. So it was kind of like loads of little patches that eventually just joined onto one. So then I had no hair at all on my head. And then that type of alopecia is called totalis, but I still had eyebrows, eyelashes, body hair. I just didn't have any scalp hair at all. And then over the years, I think I was around maybe 7 when I lost all of my scalp hair. And then when I was around 13 or 14, that's when I started to lose my eyebrows. And they went like half an eyebrow at a time. And then I lost my lashes the year after. So that kind of happened, I would say, at a key age, like mid-teens, just, when you're just starting to just find yourself a little bit. And then I lost my eyelashes. So at that point, that's called alopecia universalis, which is the most extreme kind, which is what I've got now. I've had for so long, since I was, 10 years now, that I've had alopecia universalis. So no body hair, absolutely anywhere. So I'm like a baby's bum, as you would.
So I didn't realize there were 3 different types of alopecia, because I also, I didn't know until 5 seconds ago. I always assumed that it was like complete hair loss all over. I didn't realize there'd be different stages. And I guess one thing is, like, I find mums always get really dismissed when they have issues with their children, or like they find that they need to speak to somebody about their child. So I can imagine for your mum that was really like stressful. But one thing that I did wonder was, do you think being diagnosed with alopecia at such a young age was probably better or worse than if you were potentially diagnosed as an adult?
Yeah, I would say so. In some sense, it is. Not being sort of dismissive of how it does feel, because of course the impact of it can be great. But I do think, in a sense, I have had a bit of an easier ride, because at the end of the day, this is me, and I've not known any different at all. Obviously, when I was younger, I did have a little bit of hair, but not much for us to remember. So I definitely think it is a lot easier to accept, because I think someone who's grown up with hair and they've learned how to do their hair, how to do their eyebrows, how to do their eyelashes with hair already, to then that complete 180, and it's totally different, and it's just, they have to relearn everything. Getting into the wig game as well is just a total different ball game, and it's just learning loads of new things, which is obviously traumatizing as well. So I do think I have had a much better ride in that sense. But it has been hard and sometimes, and I suppose it's the fact of kind of like accepting it, but I've had obviously a lot longer to accept it, and my sort of mindset growing up has been, well, I can't change it, like I can't control it, so I might as well just embrace it, be who I am, and just go about my life, because otherwise I would just be very bored and upset my whole life, and I literally can't change it, so what's the point in dwelling on it, really?
What was it like growing up? Because children can be very cruel, especially when they don't understand something. So I can imagine growing up and like going into secondary school especially was probably really tough.
Yeah, definitely. I would probably say this stage, it's really weird, because I had different stages where I struggled a lot more than I thought I thought I was coping better than I actually was, basically. So in primary school, I did have a little bit of name calling. I was never bullied, like not to that extent, but I have had name call and things like that. And it is hard, like I would used to say to my mum, because obviously it was all on her as well as it was on me. She had to kind of just deal with it as much as I did. And it was my mum who had to kind of deal with people approaching, like they would be on holiday and people would just come up and say, oh, bless her, is she got cancer? Is she going through treatment and things like this? So it was a lot. And it's also like horrible for people to assume that I'm ill like that, which I'm not. I'm perfectly healthy. I just don't have hair. So yeah, it was hard in that sense. And I think the time that I personally felt the struggle the most, and I think it's because obviously I'm my own person, I'm a grown woman now, and it was when I went to uni, which was just really surprising. It was a totally threw us off guard, because I think I went to secondary school, which was an all-girls school, so there wasn't that as much pressure, I would say. I mean, I don't know, I think because being around all girls, you don't feel like you have to go to school with makeup on, and you can just look like a scruff and it's fine. But yeah, I think when I went into uni, there was obviously mixed. It was girls and boys. It was a totally new group, and it's kind of the introduction that I struggle with the most, of like, do I introduce someone with a full face of makeup and a wig on, or without anything? What's the easiest way to like be like, hi, by the way, without it being a big deal? And yeah, I struggled with that. Like, I went to the first freshers event and I remember just coming home crying. Like, it was just horrible. Like, I hated it. And I don't know, I just think it was like the whole group situation and trying to just fit in, essentially, I suppose. And I just totally, I think it's my own fault, to be honest. Like, no one cares, but I don't know, I just felt really conscious and like I couldn't make friends or no one wanted to be my friend. Like, that's literally was my mindset, which was horrible and hard to overcome. But it's all a journey, I suppose. That gave me a bit of a wake-up call to be like, oh, maybe you're not doing as well as you think you are. Or there's something inside us that I've kind of pushed down, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think I completely understand. Well, I mean, I don't, but I think I get where you're coming from in a sense that, you know, like trying to grow up anyway is hard enough as it is. But when, you know, we talk about, we see confidence issues in men that lose their hair from a young age, and male baldness is a lot more common than cases of alopecia, especially ones as severe as yours. And, you know, I know guys that started to lose their hair when they were 16, 17. And, you know, for them, it was like a massive identity crisis. But I guess with you, it's like, you know, what is normal for you? Like, how do you approach people? And I think I can imagine trying to make friends when you feel like that inside, regardless of whether you're healthy or not, can be really, really challenging.
Yeah, I think it's a sense of like feeling like people are going to judge you, or I don't know. I really don't know what it is. And like, it sounds so silly to say like, oh, someone's not going to be my friend because I've got no hair, because that's just not the case. And I have made friends. I've had loads of friends and good friends, and it's just like, I don't know why I kind of had that limitation or view on myself, maybe. But I suppose like everyone has insecurities, but it just overwhelmed us maybe because of the whole new situation. And just I think that was the biggest thing, was how do I introduce myself? Like, how do I go about this without it being awkward or embarrassing? Because I don't want anyone else to feel awkward about it either, because obviously I'm so open about it, I don't mind. But it's just the fact of like, I'd be so embarrassed if someone like accidentally said something like, oh, can I borrow your shampoo? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think of a stupid example. But like, people, like, that's one thing that someone said to us before, and then they're like, oh, wait. And I just feel awkward. It's just like them situations, but I don't care that the rest is, because it's just an easy mistake to make. But I don't know, it's just like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just waffling now.
Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. I don't know about you guys, but I personally really struggle with productivity during those autumn and winter months, because we are getting far less daylight and the weather is so much colder. And when you're in that mindset, doing simple tasks such as house admin can feel like a real drag. When you're in that mindset, it's actually really tough to break that cycle. And that's where I've been using a therapist to become a better problem solver and making it easier to manage everyday tasks. In situations like this, I really benefit from cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT. My therapist and I use very simple techniques in order to be able to retrain my brain to put myself into that problem-solving mode and help myself to focus more on the positives in my day than the negatives. I have found that these techniques are also really beneficial when it comes to dealing with really low moods or bouts of stress and anxiety. If you've been thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great solution. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. You can get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists at any time. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/GKN today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/GKN. What was it like at university then? Like, you know, when you decided that, you know, you were going to introduce, I mean, how did you decide how you're going to introduce yourself to people?
So I went, well, basically it was like, like the first freshers thing, and I went with my dad to go and get my little card done, and I actually really enjoyed it then. I went like without any makeup, without a wig, and people are like really friendly, really open, so I was like, okay, maybe like it's going to be fine, like I'll just go. And then I convinced myself to actually go to the nighttime freshers event. But obviously I was going by myself. I lived at home as well, so I didn't live in any of the student accommodation, so people already had kind of like a group that they could stick with, like their flatmates basically. But I went completely by myself, and I went without a wig. I think I had a little bit of makeup on, but not a lot. And I went without, and it was just really awkward. Like it was just uncomfortable. I feel like anyone would have felt uncomfortable. But I don't know, I suppose like I'm not a very outgoing person. Like you might not think it because of social media and things like that. I think I'm really shy in some sort of circumstances. And that was definitely one. But I just try to like latch onto someone and just be like, hi, I'm here by myself. Can I like stick with you? And then they done, that like that weird like t-shirt signing thing. They done that, and I was just like, I just can't deal with this. I need to go home. It's just too much.
Yeah, I can imagine like going to a freshers event on your own is like a really big move anyway, and it's putting yourself out of your comfort zone as it is. And I think that would freak anybody out, let alone like, trying to decide how you're going to introduce yourself to people, and even being brave enough to go completely as you are. I could only like commend you for that, because I think going on my own would freak me enough as it is.
Mm-hmm. I know, and even like when I go to events and stuff now, like with the beauty side of things, I still go by myself, and I don't know why I do it to myself. I suppose it's like, it's good to like push myself to actually do it, but it's a bit scary still. And honestly, I don't know why I still do it. I suppose it's the thing of like trying to make a friend, or just trying to like latch onto someone and be like, be my friend. That's what I'm like.
After freshers, was it a more pleasant experience, like after you've kind of ripped the band-aid off?
To be honest, probably not. Like I think I really struggled throughout uni. I even nearly dropped out after the first year. I think it's because I went to Durham and I'd done law, and it was a really hard course. But I don't know. It was like, yeah. I think it was hard. I think it was like that first interaction obviously gave us a bit of a shock, and I was like, okay, not a great start, but I went, and I just kind of like went for I just had to think of the bigger picture and think at the end of it, I'm going to have a law degree. So I just had to think of it that way, and get through it. And if I made friends along the way, then that would be great. And I did make some friends. Like it wasn't like awful, but I think it was like the mixture of like the new environment, a really hard course, kind of being by myself, and like all of that was hard. But I got there, and I graduated at the end of it. So...
honestly, that's amazing. Studying law on its own is like a minefield, and it's so challenging, especially at Durham. So, you literally didn't make it easy for yourself by picking that. But no, it's amazing that you did that, and you graduated, and, you didn't give up, essentially. One of the things that I did read about you is that, since you are more public about your journey with alopecia and about how you like kind of cope with it online, you were on the back end of online hate and trolling, which I mean, trolling in any shape or form I'll never really understand, because I think it's very weak-minded. But when it's something that's a medical condition that's completely outside of your control, I definitely don't get it.
No, I know, it's awful. Like to be honest, the most I've received is recently. And I like, even growing up, like I was never bullied. I was never like, I didn't really have a hard time growing up. And then when I got into the whole social media world, it was such a shock, and I really wasn't expecting it. And when I first come into social media and doing what I do now, I think I was probably a little bit oblivious to it, or naive, I suppose. And I didn't realise like how bad it could actually be. And people don't actually care what they say. They really don't. Like there's no limits. Like there's people making jokes about cancer. Like that's how sick it gets. Which is absolutely disgusting, of course. And I'm just grateful that I'm not in that position where I am really ill, because imagine seeing something like that and feeling how you do. Like I can't even comprehend, but it's just awful. I don't know what goes through people's minds to be saying some of the stuff that they do. But I just have to ignore it, because all of the lovely, amazing comments I get totally outweigh what I do get on the hate side of things. But most of it is someone without a profile picture, or a young boy who's on their phone past their bedtime, something like that. Like it's just a bit silly. But yeah, I've just got to try and push through it, remain positive.
I know in the beginning, when you first start receiving trolling, it's usually a lot harder to deal with because you don't really understand why you're getting it, or like, why it's happening to you. But, how did you initially cope with it, and how have you now built that resilience in order to see it and be like, actually, it's got nothing to do with me?
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a, because I've got the people around us who love us, basically. Like you've got who you need, and that's all that does really matter. But I suppose now, I used to like respond a lot to it and try and fight them back, because I would get really annoyed. But now I can just see there's no point. There's no point trying to talk sense into someone who doesn't want to listen or whatever. I'm just wasting my breath. And I think I feel like I've got a little bit of a, what's the word? Like I want to protect people like me. Like I don't want to show people what people are saying. So I don't want to use my platform to be like, look what someone said about us, and try and fight them on my story, when it's not. All it's going to do is bring that comment to light to a lot more people. And I don't want someone, for example, a younger version of myself, or a little girl who's just joined Instagram, TikTok, whatever, to just see comments like that, or think that like people think that of them, because they really don't. And it is the minority that you're going to get weird comments like that. So it is a sense of, like, sometimes I get really annoyed and I would just want to reply to some people and just gets us so annoyed, but then I just don't want to, because I just want to like protect other people and be like, no, that's not what people actually think. It's just some keyboard warriors just sitting there doing their thing.
It always is the same types of people as well, isn't it? Like you said, it's usually a kid that's up past their bedtime, or someone without a picture who's not even brave enough to own what they're saying to you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the worst bit about it. Like, it's just so annoying. Like, even my boyfriend sees some of them and he responds for us sometimes, because obviously he's not me directly responding. He's like attacking them back, but sometimes there's literally just no point. There's literally no point, because the little kids are like, it's always the men. I just don't understand. Like, to be honest, I think I've only ever responded to a few that are women, because it shocks us a lot more if it is a woman, because I'm like, I'm all about women supporting women, and if you're trying to tear another woman down, it says a lot. Whereas if it's a man, then just brush it off. It's fine. But when it's a woman, it's definitely worse. I don't stand for that.
Yeah, I think, one thing that, there's both sides. I don't really get it in general, but I guess with men, if there was a man who was talking about male baldness and women were trolling him, you'd get loads of people being like, wow, that's disgusting. Like, you would hate it if a man said it about a woman, but then they're going to go and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like that roles, isn't it, with men and women? And I don't know. I feel like there is a little bit of a thing about male baldness as well, because I don't know. I'm not a man, so I can't really comment, but I do think it can affect men a lot more than they want to let off, maybe. But that's the issue, is that with men, they don't want to show any weakness, so they just have to act as if it doesn't bother them. Maybe that's how I feel about some men or some people I've spoken to with alopecia. And even my uncle has alopecia, which is random. So I think in a way it might be a little bit genetics, but not fully. But anyways, that's a total different topic anyway. But yeah, I do think with the whole men in women and having alopecia, that men do potentially struggle just as much as a woman can, but doesn't show it, basically. I think women can, it's more socially acceptable for a woman to like express. Is that right? So I think that's what I'm trying to say.
So I can see behind you, I think it's behind you, you've got some wigs. And I saw that you kind of like, you know, apart from your job, you are very into makeup. And by the way, I am terrible with anything hair related. I'm surprised I've not burnt mine off. So I'm really like amazed by anybody that can use a wig. How did you kind of get into like starting to wear wigs and getting into makeup?
Mm-hmm. So I think it is all obviously fully linked with having alopecia. So I think I got into the makeup side of things and the wig side of things as my alopecia was getting worse. I think I got my first wig when I was around 6 or 7, so when I lost the majority of my hair. And it was like this cute little bandana thing with loads of little plaits. It was so cute. But yeah, with the makeup side of things, it was kind of like, because I had, like, I would watch YouTube videos and stuff, and I've always been really arty, I would say, in school and stuff like that. But when I started to lose my eyebrows, I would watch YouTube videos, and I would always be watching someone who already had eyebrows or already had eyelashes. So then I'd have to it basically just forced us to have to just experiment on my own face and just figure it out, basically. With wigs as well, I feel like obviously with having alopecia, I would get my first wig and then the collection would just grow from there. And it was just like being adventurous with your hair colour and being able to have a blonde one day, a brown the next day. It was just really good and I loved it. And I was such a girly girl as well when I was little. So I used to love being able to put a dress on, makeup, wigs, everything. But yeah, I absolutely love wigs, as you can tell. I've got quite a few, and I just like being able to just try loads of different colours, basically, and yeah, just go from there.
I guess so. It's like makeup a bit of kind of an escape and a bit of a comfort for you, as well as something that you're really interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I love like, not just because like makeup isn't just something I use to basically hide what I have. It's something that I feel like I can use to express or create, and yeah, just create loads of different looks. Like there's sometimes I've got blue eyebrows or red eyebrows and random funky lips, so that's obviously not stuff I'd really go out the house in. It's more just the creative side of things and kind of being arty on my face. So yeah, I love it. But yeah, I don't know, I think it's with having so many wigs as well, it lets me create all these looks. I would say with the makeup and the wigs combined, it's kind of become a little thing.
Did you struggle when you first wanted to get into makeup because there were a lack of people out there that basically represented what you look like?
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose like someone with eyebrow hairs, for example, they can use a pencil to fill them in. If I just use a pencil, you can tell I've just took a pencil and drew it on my face. Like there's no texture, there's nothing kind of lifted off my face other than like it's just flat and it's just coloured in. So it's just really obvious. So the thing I lacked from watching other people was trying to make my eyebrows look as realistic as possible. And that's just something I just had to learn and had to pick up and try different products. Like try pomades, pens, eyebrow transfers, just trying absolutely everything to just try and get them as realistic as possible. Like, what I would rack my brains to think, right, what can I use to get a little bit of texture in them, to get those hair strokes to make them look really realistic. And I think it was just experimenting, and I was just really open to just trying new things, and I wasn't afraid to just try something on my face and just go for it. And I think like once I like got somewhere with my eyebrows and I was happy with them, that's when the whole like side of makeup, and I wanted to like share it with social media, and that's when I started on the social media side of things and started with my platform and things like that. And then in a way with it kind of like I started doing content creation because I love makeup, not because of having alopecia and whatnot. Like the alopecia advocacy kind of came like after, and in a way the way you look at it now, you would probably think it would be the other way around. But no, it definitely started from the makeup side of things, because I was fine to go online just as I am without a stitch of makeup on, nothing on my face. And I didn't really care. And I think that's kind of what attracted the alopecia audience, because it can help a lot of people, I suppose. And it just grew from there.
Are you stuck on what to buy your loved ones this Christmas? Well, Typology may just be the answer. Typology are a French skincare brand that started from a mission to demystify the skincare industry by creating clean skincare products with pareback formulations that include just the essentials and nothing more, with naturally active ingredients that are extremely effective. The simplicity of the product formulations is also reflected in the design of their packaging. You have to go online just to see how super minimalistic and incredible they look on the bathroom shelf. Whilst all this sounds very luxurious, Typology also have very reasonable prices. Since launching in 2008, they have quickly become the #1 online skincare brand in France, and they're now available to buy in the UK and have some lovely gift sets that just may make the perfect Christmas present. I particularly love the Discovery range they sent to me, as it allows you to explore a range of face and body care products in just 10 miniature sizes. Gift sets start from just £41, and they are beautifully wrapped in Typology's signature orange gift box. So if you want to buy somebody a thoughtful gift this year, go to uk.typology.com/GKN, and if you follow the link, you receive a free purifying cleansing bar with charcoal worth £12, which is perfect for the person on that naughty list. Order by Friday the 16th of December for delivery just in time for Christmas. Yeah, I guess there was probably younger versions of yourself, right, that were looking for somebody to kind of who did makeup and then found you, and that's kind of like probably where it kind of kicked off and became a lot bigger. I remember trying to learn makeup for the first time. I used to use blue eyeshadow that you get from free magazines back in the day, and that was a nightmare in itself. So trying to learn to do makeup is virtually impossible, I think. And when you first came on, I was like, oh my God, our makeup's immaculate. And I've just literally shoved a bit of bronzer on my eyelids and was like, I'll call it a day.
No, to be honest though, you using that blue eyeshadow and everything, we've all been there. I feel like we've all been through those awful makeup stages, when there was the thin brows and we had those really thick blocky brows, and everyone's been there. So makeup in itself is a whole learning curve, whether you've got hair or not.
I guess, what has been the best, what was your best piece of content that you put out there and you were like, I'm so proud of this?
I feel like, to be honest, it's my eyebrows. I feel like, and after everything that I post, my eyebrows always seem to be the ones that catch people's attention the most. And I don't know what it is. I think, I suppose some of the content that I'd seen before, or someone trying unshaved eyebrows, for example. So just anyone with a blank canvas would always just draw them in with a bit of pencil or something like that. So I suppose what I was doing was a little bit different to what was out there, and it would always attract a lot more attention. So I remember I'd done a eyebrow tutorial, and I was using an eyeliner. Sounds random, but it was kind of like a pomade slash gel eyeliner consistency. It was kind of like that, and it just worked really, really well for trying on my eyebrows. And I think like trying an eyeliner on your eyebrows, like it just doesn't make sense, but it worked, and they actually looked quite good, if I say so myself. Like it just because I could create the fluffiness and the eyebrow sort of look. So I think that's just what attracted people, and a lot of my eyebrow stuff went viral. And my first ever viral video was definitely my eyebrows. People were going crazy over them.
What was your reaction when you like kind of saw that first viral post?
I'm trying to remember, because I was definitely shocked, because I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's seeing this, and it was like getting into the thousands, and it was creeping up to the millions, and I was just like, oh, and it was then it obviously the bad comments would come, and then the good comments would come, and it was just crazy. It was exciting, definitely. And it was good because I felt like I was helping a lot of people as well. And from there I would get a lot of people with alopecia messaging us for advice and things like that. So it was great, and it really definitely kick-started everything. And I love what I do, and I love being able to just be creative, and the social media side of things allows us to be creative. So I love being able to do that.
If you never got into the social media stuff, like what do you think you'd be doing now as your full-time thing? Like, would you have ever pursued a career in the legal industry or not?
Probably. As bad as it sounds, I did just want to do law because of the money. Just because I thought, if I'm going to spend all this time, if I'm going to spend all of this time in school and all of my years like in school, university, then I want to be rich. Like I want to be like, have a good retirement and enjoy my life and not have to worry about money. So I just try to think, because it's so hard when you're young and you've just got to choose something so early what you want to go into, and you've got to choose this when you're in your teens. And I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do for the rest of my life, but I have to decide right now. So in my head I was just thinking, right, what can give me a good steady income and I won't have to worry. So it was law. So to be fair, yeah, I'd probably say I would have went into law maybe. And I did, like, just before all of the social stuff, I did actually like go to they're called like training contracts. I did apply for one of them and I nearly got it, but I didn't. And then that year that I was kind of like regathering myself to apply the next year, that's when everything started with socials. So then it kind of just fell off. I went back to the next year to the same training contract thing to apply and try again. But I kind of just winged that because I was like, I'm not too bothered now. But it's there. Got a degree if I need it.
Yeah, I guess it's like always really nice to, have a plan. Well, your law degree is now probably like a plan B, right? But it's always nice to have one of those. And it's probably really nice for you that, well, it's not nice, I guess, when you don't get your training contract, it's really demoralizing and like heartbreaking at the time because you feel like it's the end of the world, but it probably kind of redirected you onto the path that you're on now. And like looking back on it, how do you kind of feel a lot better about how things have panned out?
Yeah, I definitely do, because I don't know if I was just kidding myself that I wanted to do law. Like, I don't know if I was cut out to actually do law, because I know sometimes you've got to be a little bit stern, and I just don't know if I'm that person for that. But I was riding that wave at the time. Right now, looking back, yeah, maybe it wasn't for me. I really don't know. But I definitely think everything happens for a reason, and you're going to end up where you're meant to be, basically. So I feel like I'm heading in the right direction where I want to be and what I want to actually do. Like, truly passion wise, what actually makes us happy and what I enjoy doing is makeup, and what I'm doing now on the content creation side of things. So would I really have been happy behind a desk and fighting someone's case? I don't know, maybe, but I don't think so.
I guess kind of going on from finding your purpose and going on to something you're passionate about, there's so many things on the market now for anybody, but there's a lot of like treatments that are marketed to people with alopecia, including like semi-permanent makeup. And with so many things being out there, you recently launched, I think it was last month, launched your collaboration with Brow HQ. Congratulations, by the way. So kind of like, how did that kind of kickstart and happen?
Yeah, so it all started to happen. Well, the whole process with Brow HQ started like over 2 years ago, so it took a while for them to actually come out. But yeah, it all started with the Jen, and also with where I worked with Brow HQ once on their brow pencils. And then we kind of like built from there a relationship, and just kind of trying to think of products that were a little bit more innovative and that would help people like me, basically. And there was eyebrow transfers out there prior to my own, but I was thinking, how can, like, the ones I was using just weren't what I wanted. They weren't like modern, nice styles, and they weren't kind of fitting that younger look and feel. Like, for example, they were fully inspired by the whole laminated brows and the nice fluffy brows that we're seeing at the moment. And me, with having alopecia, I could never have fluffy laminated brows, and that's just so heartbreaking. But with my brow transfers, I can. So that's kind of why I created them, to bring a bit more of a modern style, because a lot of them are kind of, although natural looking, they're just not snatched, basically. That's the way I would describe them, like fluffy, snatched, modern brows. That's how I would say. Yeah, and it all just came about just from collabing before, and then just building on that and just thinking, because Brow HQ, she also had a little bit of a connection with alopecia. She works obviously a lot doing semi-permanent makeup for people with cancer, with alopecia, so she's been around that industry, and she can see the impact that things like this can have, but she could also see the benefit of having a more temporary option than the semi-permanent option, which the brow transfers can bring.
Honestly, that's it's amazing. And what you can see some people do in terms of like semi-permanent makeup and brow transfers actually blow my mind, because I mean, like, my mum's got the old school 80s brow, right, where she's like basically like tweezed off all of her eyebrows. So when I see people that have had like even transformations in that sense, I'm just like amazed by how good things look. And because I've had really dodgy microblading, so I can say that, things have definitely gotten better since I used to have my dodgy brows. But what would be like eventually if you could get a phone call from somebody right now and said, like, Dani, I've got this brand on the line, like, for you now, saying they want to do this deal, what would be like your big dream collaboration or like plan for the future?
Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, I always say like dream big, but I'm always that person who doesn't want to like what's the word? Like, I don't want to be disappointed, basically. So I don't want to say it to then be disappointed. But if I'm dreaming big, then I'd definitely say working with a huge global brand who specializes or is known for their brows. For example, just putting it out there, like Anastasia Beverly Hills or NYX, just someone who's like in the makeup but good on their brows, basically knows the stuff on their brows, and doing an unreal collab with them. I mean, I've got so many ideas in my little brain about how I can make brow products or make brow products better, and better for people like me, as well as being able to be used by normal or people with eyebrows. So yeah, I would say that would be the big dream, big goal, aiming high always. But yeah, just being able to bring out my own thing with like a big brand and being a little bit innovative and bringing out something that's not quite on the market.
Well, you never know. Those people that do like PR and influencer relationships from those brands might be listening to this podcast. And if you are, then hit Dani up on social media. But no, that's honestly, I think it's really important to dream big and to aim high, because, you know, I feel like if you set yourself too low, I think you'll also get disappointed. But I always end the podcast kind of with a similar final question. And I guess for you, I'm going to ask you, like, what would you say to people in your past and people potentially in the future that are going to doubt how successful you are as a woman based off your alopecia?
Oh, I think that's a good question. I would probably say to people, to be honest, I would say it's all about someone's mindset and how they view the world, and like your perspective on life and what you want to get out of life. So I would definitely say to people, it is about changing up that perspective and kind of just being a bit more of a positive person. I mean, I would say I'm generally a positive person, and I kind of would say I'd see the good in a lot of people. And I think it is just about trusting and doing your own thing and concentrating on yourself. But yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that. But I just think, do you know what I mean? I think it is just about perspective and not judging someone too early or seeing where they can come, and kind of just watch the space, basically. Just be quietly confident and just let them stew.
I mean, there was a massive Dani-shaped hole in the world of social media and makeup, and she's here to fill it. So, you know, don't ever underestimate someone, because, you know, their pain is also their power. And, you know, I think you're amazing for what you've done and for being completely open and honest and being, you know, you've made yourself vulnerable online, and that's never easy to do, no matter who you are or, you know, what your hardship is. So I think you're amazing for that, and I want to say thank you so much for giving up your time and coming on this podcast. Of course, thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.